Hello, and welcome to the next of our CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Dominic Sartorio, head of product marketing here at Denodo, and we're a provider of a data management platform that helps transform data into trustworthy insights and outcomes for all data-related initiatives, including AI. And so the topic of this interview is about trends in the data and analytics industry in the age of AI. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Faizan Javed. He is Senior Director of Data Science and Engineering at Kaiser Permanente, one of the largest healthcare providers in the country, to talk about the broader trends in data and analytics in the age of AI. So Faizan, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Dominic. Great to be here.
In our business, we've seen similar in other verticals, including financial services or retail or et cetera. There are a lot of existing best practices and workflows and business processes where, of course, humans who have the deep expertise are executing them. And to the extent software is involved, it's usually deterministic, as programmed in an application, leveraging a data set with a fixed structure usually. So then AI comes along and the leadership of that organization will see this great transformative potential. But transformation is a double-edged sword, right? So you can have AI to automate or drive much greater efficiency, but there's only so much you can do to completely fundamentally change existing business processes and workflows. And then there may be regulations that govern those things. So in your experience, how do you move the needle, or how would a data leader such as yourself in these organizations move the needle so that you can get a lot of benefit around AI in spite of the existing processes and workflows and ways of doing business that may cause friction?
Yeah. So for all the data leaders, right, we first need to understand, let's say if you're trying to apply data and AI transformation in an organization, where does that org stand in terms of the data and AI maturity, right? So not all orgs are at the same level. So there's a big difference between a big tech company versus something that's a mid-market company or an up-and-coming startup, right? They're all at various different spectrums of maturity. So the first thing is to analyze, where do things stand? What do we have available, right? Is the organization at, let's say, first generation organization, which means that you would probably have to spend time building the data governance layer. You would have to spend time, focusing on data storage and collection and privacy and establishing all that foundational basis, right? Focusing on also establishing responsible AI practices. And then that's usually where you spend the most time if you're just starting off. So you can't just say, well, my org is at this stage and I want to build an AI application in the next 6 months. That's not going to happen. Right. So we have to be realistic. Is it first generation or is it second generation where, well, I do have that foundational layer, but I need to focus more on getting infrastructure up and running. Do I have the cloud ecosystem in place? Do I have the IDs and tools available? Because if you don't have the tools, you can't build anything, right? So one simple example I always give is that it's much easier to mow a lawn with a lawnmower versus a pair of scissors, right? Yeah, I can mow my lawn with a pair of scissors, but that's not going to be very efficient, right? So that's the second generation. Okay, do I have the infrastructure in place, and can I start building some small applications, right, to show value? And then, of course, there's a more mature third generation where, yes, everything is there. I can just focus on the business problems and I can target really high and cutting edge AI applications like building my own LLM, creating it in-house. So where in that spectrum of the three generations do you stand, right? So then that can help us build a short-term and long-term strategy, because we have to keep in mind that we can't say that, okay, I want to spend the whole year just working on data governance. Because so how do we balance a short-term and long-term strategy? Like, making sure that we deliver some value, which has to be tied in with the business, right? So it's a good thing, as I mentioned earlier, it's a great thing that there's a lot of AI awareness across the world, across organizations and boards, but we still have to show that what can this AI capability do for the business, right? Can we tie those metrics together? Can we tie the value add? Right? We can't just launch AI applications, just by themselves, which don't deliver value. So it has to tie into the bottom line somehow. Yeah.
Great. So yeah, and that resonates with what I've seen in other industries, where if your existing business operations, processes, and the ways of doing business are already well represented through data, and you have clean and well governed and accurate data that represents those operations, and you have the infrastructure in place so that you can manage and execute that at scale, then it's easier to layer in AI, where it's executing against that foundation. And as you said earlier, then you're augmenting what your business is already doing if you have that foundation in place. And if you don't, it gets very hard. So following up on the infrastructure part of that, we've seen many organizations have modernized their data architectures. They've migrated to the cloud. They've adopted cloud native data platforms. In your view, is that sufficient? Like, if an organization has done that, they're ready for AI, or do you see other considerations that they should be thinking about first?
Yeah. So in this case, if an org is already focused on the infrastructure piece, right? So as I mentioned, that would fall under the second generation, that the org is mature enough that they have the data foundation in place, they have the responsible AI and the privacy practices in place, and they have moved on to having the right infrastructure, right? So so they're fairly mature, but they would still have to focus on the right tools and IDEs and frameworks and so forth. But at the same time, we also we can't ignore the factor of talent, right? Do we have the right talent in place? Do we have the right people in place? And that can be very challenging. As you know, the AI talent is, despite the industry, it's in very high demand.
Right.
And they can charge very, very high salaries. So how do we tackle that equation, right? Because if you are in the second generation phase of building out your data and AI org, you probably are also looking at, hey, do I have the appropriate level of talent available? Do I have in-house talent, or do I have the data scientists or machine learning scientists and engineers in-house? What's the strategy there, right? Because someone has to build these applications. It's great to have the foundation, but do we have the right talent? And, can you compete on compensation and so forth? So what's the strategy there, right? It has to be a combination of in-house and external talent. For most, it's an in-house and external combination for most companies who are not big tech, right? So can we upskill people internally? Can we establish academia industry partnerships? So that's a common strategy, because someone has to build those applications. We can't always outsource everything.
Great. Yeah, thanks for that. So there are multiple levels of maturity. It sounds like level one is you need good, clean, well-governed data that is adequately representing your business operations and how your organization works. Then level two is you need the infrastructure in place so that you can manage and execute at scale. And just having migrated to cloud infrastructure is necessary, but perhaps not sufficient, because then there's additional AI development tools and other tools to make sure your AI is running well. And then I guess the level three is to make sure you have the talent part of the equation. Do you have the people who know how to build effective AI applications and leverage the data that's there, so those applications are operating optimally? Would you consider that a good summary? Level one is about the data. Level two is about the infrastructure. Level three is about the people, the talent.
Yeah. So I would say, one trap I see a lot of companies, and I myself have experienced this, unfortunately, is when you have great talent, but you don't have the right ecosystem in place, right?
Yeah.
And the talent is struggling with the most basic of things. Hey, I don't have the right data. I don't have the right tools to build this.
Yeah.
And you have built a team of this great talent, and they're struggling with the most basic of tasks. And then then they get frustrated. And then it turns into this vicious loop where they get frustrated, then they leave, then you have to start all over again. So because hiring takes a lot of time and establishing these partnerships takes a lot of time. So this is why, as you were saying, right, at the third level, when you're fully mature, you have the right talent, you have the right infrastructure and toolings, you have the right data governance, privacy policies, storage retention, all the stuff, responsible AI, and then you can accelerate on the AI solutions, right? Yes, you can start with some small solutions and then start going for the moonshots.
Yeah, well said. So thank you again, Faizan. This has been a great discussion, and I want to thank you again for your time and these great insights. So for more interviews and insights, please visit cdomagazine.tech for other interviews on this and related topics. And Faizan, thank you again.
Thank you, Dominic. It was great.
Thanks.